Welcome to Chapter 6, which is Inequalities. You will be watching 3 videos for this chapter. They are all on YouTube. You will then have 2 worksheets to complete and a test. There's nothing on Compass for this chapter, so just the 3 videos on YouTube, the 2 worksheets, and then the test. At any point in time, feel free to pause the video or go back and rewind it if you need to rewatch something. If you have any questions, please make sure you raise your hand and ask either Miss Budden or Mr. Teresi. At certain points in all 3 videos, I'm going to get to a point where I say, pause the video and try this on your own. At that point, I'm expecting you to pause the video and do the problem on your own sheet of paper. When you've finished, you can come back and we'll go over it together. So let's jump right in. This entire chapter is about inequalities, so we should probably talk about what exactly is an inequality. An inequality is a relation between 2 values that are different. So a relationship between 2 values that are different. So normally we have something like x equals 4. That's equality. Inequality then would be x does not equal 4. So x and 4 are different. We also see x is greater than 4, x is less than 4, etc. These are all inequalities. We're mostly going to be focusing on these 2 in today's video. Today's video, I'm going to give you an inequality and you're going to graph it. So let's jump right into an example. Here's example number 1. It says solve and graph. We have 3x plus 5 is less than 20. Now you're going to solve this just like you would a normal equation, just as if this was an equal sign instead of a less than. So I'm going to subtract 5. That leaves me with 3x is less than 15. If I divide by 3, I get x is less than 5. Okay, so this is the solving part. Now we have to graph it. I generally put that number in the middle. So I'm going to put 5 in the middle. This is a number line, so it's going to increase to the right. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's going to decrease to the left. So 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, x is less than 5. So less than, I'm going to put an open circle at 5. Less than is everything smaller than 5. It's going to be everything to the left. So that's how I would graph x is less than 5. Just a quick note, this is a less than sign. This one is a greater than sign. The side with the opening is always the bigger side. So for example, the 5 is near the opening, so 5 is bigger, which means x is less than. Let's try another example. Okay, here we have 2x over 3 is greater than or equal to negative 4. Okay, so I want to solve for x. Right now I have a 2 that I need to get rid of, and I have a 3 that I need to get rid of. I'm going to get rid of the 3 first. I have 2x, and I'm dividing by 3. The inverse of dividing is multiplying, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. On the left side, those 3's cancel, and I'm left with 2x is greater than or equal to negative 12. Now dividing by 2, I have x is greater than or equal to negative 6. So I'm going to put negative 6 in the middle of my number line. As I go to the right, I'm going to be increasing, so negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1. When it decreases, I go to the left, so negative 7, negative 8, negative 9, negative 10, negative 11. Okay, now the difference between this example and the last example is this example has an equal to. So it's greater than or equal to. So this is saying x is negative 6 or bigger, but it can be negative 6. This time when I graph, I put a closed circle. Okay. And then the bigger side is towards the x. That means x is bigger, x is greater. So it's going to be everything to the right, everything greater than negative 6. So that was example number 2. Let's move on. Okay, so this is the difference that I just told you about. If we don't have an equal to sign, it's going to be an open circle. If we have an equal to sign, it's going to be a closed circle. Again, this sign is less than. This one is less than or equal to. This one is greater than. And this is greater than or equal to. But you need to be very careful to look at whether or not there's an equal sign. If there's an equal sign, you want to make sure you close the circle. So let's do a few more examples just to make sure we have this down. Okay, here's example number 3. So again, it says solve and graph. It says 3 multiplied by x minus 1 plus 5 is greater than 14. Again, solve these like you would if it were an equal sign. If it helps you, write in an equal sign instead. I'm going to start by distributing this 3. So I have 3x minus 3 plus 5 is greater than 14. Now, on the left side, I'm going to combine like terms. Negative 3 add 5 is going to be 2. So this is really 3x plus 2 is greater than 14. If I subtract 2, I have 3x is greater than 12. Dividing by 3, I have x is greater than 4. So that's the solving part. Now I need to graph it. I'm going to put 4 in the middle of my number line. I'm going to go up 6, 7, 8, 9, and I'm going to go down 3, 2, 1, 0, negative 1. Okay, I do not have an equal sign. It's just strictly greater than. So this is going to be an open circle. Okay, the bigger side is to the x. So it's going to be x is greater than 4. All those numbers greater than 4 are to the right. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. Those are all greater than 4. So this is what your graphing should look like. Okay, let's move on. At this point, I think we're ready for you to try one. So what I want you to do is pause the video, take 2 or 3 minutes and do this one on your own. You're going to have to solve and graph. After you've done the problem, come back and we will go over it together. Good luck. Okay, let's see how we did. First thing that you should have done is distribute that 3 on the right side. So the left side stays 2x plus 5. The right side, when I distribute my 3, is going to become 3x minus 6. Okay, now I need to get all the x's to one side. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Those x's cancel. I'm left with 5 is greater than or equal to. 3x minus 2x is x. And then that negative 6 stays. Now I'm going to add 6 to both sides. I get x is less than or equal to 11. Okay, so that's the solving. You then should have put 11 in the middle of your number line. Okay. There is an equal sign, so it's going to be a closed circle. The bigger side is towards 11. That means 11 is the bigger number. So x is less than or equal to 11. X is smaller than 11. Everything smaller than 11 is going to be to the left. So this is what you should have gotten. If you didn't, you might want to either A, ask a question of Miss Budden or Mr. Teresi, or B, you might want to go back and re-watch the beginning of the video. If you feel like you're ready, you may move on to the next examples. Okay, here's example number 5. This looks similar to what we've been doing. It still says solve and graph. I'm solving for x, so I'm going to divide by negative 3. The 3's cancel, so I have x. 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. Okay, here's the thing. Anytime you divide by a negative number, this inequality is going to flip directions. So it's going to flip to this way. I divided by a negative 3, so I flip directions. This is my answer then. It's anytime you divide or multiply by a negative number, you want to flip directions. And now I just graph like normal. -4 goes in the middle. Okay. Now, to the right, I'm going to be getting bigger. Bigger than -4 means closer to the positive numbers. So -3, -2, -1, 0, 1. Those are all bigger than -4. To the left are numbers smaller than -4. Numbers that are smaller than -4 are more negative. So -5, -6, -7, -8, -9. Okay, we have an equal sign, so less than or equal to. So this is going to be a closed circle. The open end of the inequality is towards the -4. So the -4 is bigger. So x is less than or equal to -4. It's less than, it's everything to the left. So this is what your answer should be. Okay, so the note that I want to say is if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, the inequality sign is flipped. So for example, if I had x is less than 7, and I decided for some reason to multiply both sides by -2, I'm going to have -2x, I'm going to have -14, and my inequality will be flipped. So in this case, I multiplied both sides by -2. If you multiply both sides or divide both sides by a negative number, again, it has to be both sides, you're going to flip the inequality. So let's move on to an example for you to do. Here's the example that I would like you to try. So right now I want you to pause the video and do this example completely on your own. Solve and graph. When you are finished, come back and we will go over it together. Please make sure you raise your hand and ask if you have any questions. Good luck. Okay, let's see how we did. The first thing you should have done is distributed that -2. That leaves me -2x. -2 and -1 is +2, plus 12 is greater than or equal to 5x. Okay, the inequality did not flip. You did have this -2, but it's only on one side. You didn't multiply both sides by -2, so you don't have to flip the inequality. Combining like terms, this becomes -2x, add 14 is greater than or equal to 5x. I'm going to add 2x to both sides. So I have 14 is greater than or equal to 7x. Dividing by 7, I have 2 is greater than or equal to x. You never had to flip an inequality in this one. You didn't have any negatives that you multiplied or divided both sides by, so we didn't have to flip anything. 2 goes in the middle, and then I'm going to go up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, down 1, 0, -1, -2, -3. I have an equal sign, so this is going to be a closed circle. The open side of the inequality is towards the 2, so that's the side that's bigger. That means x is less than or equal to 2. Less than is everything to the left of 2. So this is what you should have gotten. At this point, if you did not get this right, you need to go back and start the video again, which is okay. I want to make sure that we know this, that we have really good knowledge the first time through. So if you made a mistake, go back and start at the beginning and rewatch. Or raise your hand and ask Miss Budden or Mr. Teresi any questions you may have. If you're ready, let's move forward. Okay, now we're going to talk about compound inequalities. There's two different types. There's this one on the left. This is called an and inequality. It's two inequalities put into one. And then there's the or inequality on the right. Okay, looking at the and inequality. I have to have 4 and 6 in my inequality, so I'm going to put 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 3, 2, 1. Okay, from this sign, we can see we're going to have an open circle at 4. From this one, with the equal sign, we're going to have a closed circle at 6. And inequalities, you shade in between. And is going to be in between. Okay, now the one on the right, the or. I still have to have 2 and 5, so I'm going to have 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I'm going to have a closed circle at 2. I'm going to have an open circle at 5. Now this is saying G is less than or equal to 2. Less than, that's to the left. So that's this. Over here, I have G is greater than 5. Greater, so it's all this stuff. So this shows you that or is the outside shading. Now that we've reviewed that, let's jump into some examples. Okay, so example number 7, it says solve in graph. As you will notice, we have 2 inequalities put in one. We have this inequality, we have this inequality. So this is going to be an and. Okay, I solve these 2 inequalities the same as I would any other inequality. So I'm going to subtract 4. Here's the key though. I have to subtract 4 from both sides of the inequality. Okay, so 6 subtract 4 is going to be 2. Those 4's cancel, so I'm left with 2x. 14 subtract 4 is 10. Now I divide by 2, but I have to divide everything by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Those 2 cancel. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And now I'm ready to graph. So I'm going to stick my 1 somewhere and then do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0, -1, -2. I just have to make sure that I have at least a 1 and a 5 in there, which I do. Looking at this inequality, there's no equal sign, so I'm going to have an open circle at 1. Looking at this inequality, there's no equal sign, so I'm going to have an open circle at 5. Now, it's an and inequality. It's 2 put into 1, so I shade in the middle. And is always going to be in the middle. Or is when it's outside. Okay, let's try another one. Oh, this one you're going to try. This is an or. So it says solve in graph. So what you're going to do is you're going to have to solve inequality number 1, then you're going to have to solve inequality number 2, and then you're going to have to graph. So pause the video and try these on your own. Good luck. Okay, let's see how we did. Inequality number 1, I'm going to add 1. So I have 2x is greater than 8. Dividing by 2, I have x is greater than 4. Inequality number 2, I'm going to add 2. And I have x is less than or equal to 2. Okay, now the final way to write this is x is greater than 4, or x is less than or equal to 2. So again, it's 2 inequalities put into 1. It's a compound inequality, so you need to write them together. Now my number line needs to have both the number 2 and the number 4. I'm going to start with 2. Okay, looking at the x is greater than 4. No equal to, so this is going to be an open circle at 4. Looking at 2, it's less than or equal to, so it's going to be a closed circle at 2. Now, this is an or. The or inequalities we shade outside. So this is what you should have gotten. If you didn't get that, that's okay. Please make sure you rewatch this problem, though, so you know what mistakes you made. from here, we're going to do a few examples working backwards, where I give you an inequality, and where I give you a number line, and you have to write the inequality. So here are two examples that we're going to try. I'm giving you an inequality, or I'm giving you a number line, you have to write the inequality. So on the first one, I have x, and I have -4. It's everything to the left of -4, everything smaller. So it's going to be x is less than -4. It's going to be an equal to sign because the circle is filled in. On the second one, I'm going to have x, I'm going to have 4 again, +4 this time. The shading is to the right. It's getting bigger than 4, so it's going to be x is greater than 4. There's no equal to sign because the circle is not filled in. So again, this means it's going to be equal to. This tells us there's going to be no equal, depending on whether or not the circle is filled in. Going to have to be able to do a compound like this. So looking at the first one, the shading is in between, so this is an and. And is written together as 1 with x in the middle. I'm then going to have -3 and I'm going to have -2. Neither circle is filled in, so my inequality looks like this. The signs are always going to go in the same direction. They're always going to be less than signs. So and x is always in the middle. It's one double-sided inequality. Whereas the second one, shading is outside, so this is going to be an or. It's going to be something or something else. On the left, I have x is less than or equal to -2. So I'm at -2 and getting smaller. The circle is filled in, which is why I have the equal to sign. On the right inequality, it's going to be x is greater than or equal to 1. I start at 1 and I get bigger. I put the equal to sign in because the circle is filled in. Again, shading inside and no shading, it's an or. Last example is for you to do. Here's the example that I would like you to try. So I'm giving you two graphs, you're writing the inequalities. Pause the video and try these two on your own. If you need to, rewind the video to look back at the other examples that we did if you need a little help. Or raise your hand and ask Miss Budden or Mr. Teresi. Pause the video, come back when you are finished. Good luck. Okay, let's see how we did. This first one is going to be an and because the shading is in the middle. So that means I'm going to have x and 2 numbers on each side. My lower bound is going to be -10. Give myself a little more space. So my lower bound is going to be -10. This upper bound is in the middle. It's between 5 and 10. So between 5 and 10 is going to be 7.5. Neither circle is filled in, so they're both just plain less thans. I told you both are going to be a less than sign. It's not going to be greater than when you have an and. Looking at the next one. No shading in the middle, so this is going to be an or. So I'm going to have something or something else. On the left side, I have x is less than or equal to 0. So I'm starting at 0, getting smaller. It's the equal to sign because the circle is filled in. So x is less than or equal to 0, or x is greater than or equal to 3. X starts at 3 and it gets bigger, greater than. Again, there's an equal sign because the circle is filled in. Okay, hopefully you got those two right. If you didn't, that's okay. Please make sure, though, you rewind the part of the video and watch the last 3 examples, examples 9, 10, and 11, where I go over how to write an inequality based on the graph. If you got those right, that's awesome, and you're ready to move on to video number 2. If you have any questions, please feel free to rewind the video and rewatch the parts that you have questions on, or feel free to raise your hand and ask Miss Budden or Mr. Teresi for help. If you're all good with this video, move on to video 2. If not, make sure you receive help before moving on.